Looks like a pile of news to cover. I guess we're just going to have to do it. And welcome to Scarecrow's News Rant. Oh, gee, looks like my chroma key is a little fuzzy, but, it's too late to mess with it. We just gonna press on. Last week, the lead item in the news had to be the bombing that went down in Boston. Just didn't have any choice, when you look at the hot items of the day, that was the hot item of the day that everybody and his brother was talking about. And, in hindsight, you think about it, yes, it was a terrible incident, and we have a certain amount of empathy for all those people that were injured, all those people who were traumatized, and, the 3 people that were outright killed in what can only be described as a really senseless act. I can't imagine anybody getting any benefit from such a thing. What gain? Other than maybe a power-mad, power-hungry, civil rights-grabbing group within the government who will use any high-profile incident as a reason to abridge your civil liberties. Now, going to review the most recent on this Boston thing. Now, there are still some things that are a little bit weird about what went on in Boston. Just for example, there were reports of this, naked man who was taken into custody as a suspect. And relatives of the older brother said, yep, that's him. They got him. Okay, they got him fair and square. Okay, well, other than the fact that he might be a little bit embarrassed by his lack of attire, he seems pretty much alive and healthy as he's shoved naked into an automobile. Later, he turns up shot full of holes, run over by something, Lord only knows, whether it was the brother trying to get away or the police running over him with an armored car. There's conflicting stories. So, there is this puzzle as to just who the naked man is. Now, a report came out that, the naked guy, that was the fella whose car was carjacked. By the way, nobody has yet been able to interview the fella whose car was supposedly carjacked, but there is a report that came out after the police said this naked guy here was the carjacking victim. There was a report that came out that the fella whose car was carjacked was a Asian fella of slight build. I'm sorry, this guy here who's being shoved into the back of the police car buck naked is not Asian, and he's not slight of build. This guy is big, muscular, and looks Eastern European. So, he kind of looks like the older brother. The aunt says, for sure, look, I know my nephew. That's him. Then we've got the younger brother. The younger brother was apparently hiding in an antique boat that's somebody's prized possession. This is a collector's piece. He was a very proud owner of kind of an antique boat. Well, apparently the younger brother climbed under the tarp and was hiding out in this thing, trying to wait until things cooled down a little bit. Well, this is a picture of him exiting the boat, giving himself up, and looking at him, he seems to be all in one piece, does not appear to be armed, and it appears that, he is subdued at this point. Then later, we find out that he has some kind of horrendous throat wound, and that he tried to commit suicide. Yeah, he tried to suck on the barrel of a gun that he didn't have. Pictures of the boat reveal just how significant the gunfire was. So, all things considered, I guess, it's amazing that he did manage to climb out of that boat under his own power. Now, why do we question the official story? I mean, the police departments have given out the real deal to the news media, and the news media has told you exactly what happened. Case closed. It's all over, right? Right? Remember the Maine. Remember the Gulf of Tonkin. Think back a little further and remember the Reichstag fire. Remember them weapons of mass destruction? Why do we not trust our government when they give us the story? Why do we look for all these holes? Why are we so suspicious? Gee, I wonder why. Now, besides all the problems with the story, okay, let's face it, the official story has got a lot of holes in it. It's looking a lot like Swiss cheese right now. We hope to hell that the guys that are dead and in custody are the perpetrators. We hope that the Royal Canadian Mounties got their man. Remember Lee Harvey Oswald? Maybe these are designated patsies? Who knows? I'm not sure we will know within this generation. It might take 20 or 30 years for the truth to come out. But eventually, the truth will come out. The fact of the matter is, the fellas that we do not trust today are very closely related to the fellows who planned and committed the execution of JFK, Martin Luther King, and Bobby Kennedy. Okay, so if you wonder why we are suspicious of the story we've been told, it's because history has shown our government, spokesmen for the police, and the media to be complicit in putting lies forward. They've been caught so many times that it's just flat hard to trust them. But that's not the case with everybody. Apparently, a lot of people bought into it because I hear tale that, as the police were leaving the scene of the capture in Boston, there were people out there cheering them on, saying, "Yeah, buddy." There's another really disturbing angle to this story, and I'm going to play a little bit of a news clip for you here. Let you get the taste of this. See what you think.
The dramatic scene played out in front of our cameras. Parents grabbing their children and running after spending the night hunkering in their houses and then finding themselves face to face with the muzzle of a SWAT officer's rifle.
It's a little stressful. It was a little stressful seeing these guys pointing big guns and you're holding your daughter in your arms, but they're doing the right thing. They're trying to secure the neighborhood.
Each time the SWAT team would rescue a family at the point of a gun, they would rush into the home in an armed line, guns ready in case the suspect was hiding inside. Each time they cleared out a residence, they did it with a force that reflected the uncertainty of not knowing who was a friend and who was a foe.
And he banged on the door.
The point is, last year, 800 times as many American citizens were killed by police than by terrorists. That's a statistic they don't talk about. Now you're standing there with your daughter, and some guy in a Darth Vader outfit points a great big gun at you and says, "Get out your house." Chances are I would say, "Yes, sir," and I would get out of the house. But I'm not sure I'd like it. I'm not sure I'd talk nice about that guy afterwards. As a matter of fact, I might be looking for some get even. Okay? How is it that all these people in Boston could be trembling in their boots and be forgiving of a loss of their Fourth and Fifth Amendments over two guys, kids, youngsters, who, by all accounts, were responsible for killing 4 people? How is it that an entire city could be scared and shaking in their boots over 2 fellers? How far the mighty have fallen. Moving on to other items. Have you tried to buy any gold or silver or perhaps ammunition recently? It appears that all over the United States, we are witnessing unprecedented shortages of ammunition of almost any description and physical silver and gold. Now, there's a disconnect here. There's all the contract gold you want to buy. Now, if you got enough cash laying around that you can buy 200 ounces, 100 ounces is about, $150,000 right now. Okay, so 200 ounces, we're talking, round numbers, 300 grand. Okay, so if you're pretty well heeled and you got $300,000, you can buy yourself a gold contract for 200 ounces of gold, and what you get is you get a warehouse receipt. You get yourself a piece of paper saying, somewhere in some magical vault, somewhere, is 200 ounces of gold with your name on it. Okay? Well, then the day comes when you say, gee, I'd like to have my gold. I dug a hole out in my backyard, and I'm going to somehow stick it in a mason jar, and I'm going to bury it out in the backyard. So I think I'd like to have my 200 ounces of gold in my hand. Well, see, that's where the disconnect is. They've sold hundreds of times, some say thousands of times, as many warehouse receipts as they have gold to deliver. And all of a sudden, people aren't satisfied to have their receipt that says they've got 200 ounces of gold in a vault somewhere. All of a sudden, they have become less trusting. And they've decided that, if I'm going to put up hard-earned money, I'd actually like to have that hunk of metal in my hand, and I'll go bury it out in the backyard. No. There is a very good chance a lot of very savvy financial guys are saying that the COMEX, this is basically the commodities exchange where you would go to buy your gold contract. There is speculation that the COMEX may go bust. Now, that's not quite as severe as maybe, the stock exchange going bust like what happened back in the late 1920s. But it ain't far off. And some say that if you push the COMEX over the edge, might tick the stock exchange with it. We're just going to have to keep an eye on it. We really don't know. And to small guys like us who might want to buy 1 or 2 ounces of gold, we're just not so well heeled that we're going to go out and buy 200 ounces of gold. I mean, how many of the folks in the chat room here got $300,000 to go out and buy 200 ounces with? We might have 1 or 2. I know Zero could probably afford to spring for 1, but I know I couldn't. I consider myself fortunate. I might be able to buy 1 or 2 ounces of gold. I consider myself very fortunate. I'm strutting. I've got me an ounce of gold. So guys like us, well, we can get onesies and twosies, but if you're looking at the spot value on gold, and spot value, plus or minus a little bit, it's about $1,500 round numbers right now. If you think you're going to get an ounce of gold anywhere close to the spot value that you can actually hold in your hand, guess again, my friend. I understand premiums are in some cases as much as 20-25%. Bottom line is the dealers who are going to sell you that 1 or 2 ounces of gold, they're having to pay astronomical premiums to get it into their inventory. And of course, when they then sell it to you, they got to make a profit. That's what they're in business to do. So, the disconnect is the difference between the value of that piece of paper and the gold that you can actually physically hold in your hand. The spread, there was always a spread. There was always a 10-15% premium for getting the gold actually in your hand. Well, those premiums have in some cases darn near doubled. And over $7.5 billion in gold has disappeared from the depositories. Gold that supposedly was there is now gone. And you wonder why they wanted the gold from Cyprus. And you wonder why the French are back in Mali. You look at all the world events, they seem totally disconnected. You just can't imagine why. You start putting the pieces together and you realize that somebody's got their finger hovering over the panic button. And you got to wonder just where the hell this country's headed. In any case, that was Scarecrow's News Rant for April 25th, 2013. Hope I got you thinking about those issues. how is everybody tonight? Everybody in the chat room fat and happy and well fed, and you got your gold and you got your silver, and you got plenty of food stored up, and you got plenty of water and ammunition's all squared away, no problem. Everything is just hunky-dunky-dory, right? And the whole world is just wonderful. And you got rid of all your black backpacks, and you have bought pink Hello Kitty backpacks, because I understand that's all that's going to be allowed in sporting events from here on out. Right? We'll just have to see how things go. You know, I paint kind of a bleak picture, because, you know, you look around, you look at what's going on in the news, and you just kind of shake your head. And you know, we're hyperventilating here because, you know, three people, perfectly innocent people, were killed up in Boston in what was a terrorist attack, no question about it. Now, okay, suppose you're some poor schmuck living in North Pakistan, up in the Punjab, up in that area, and, you know, you invite the family over for a cookout. You know, you take a prime lamb and you butcher him and put him on the spit, and you got the whole family gathered around it. Well, you know, one of your weird uncles, doesn't everybody have a weird uncle? You know, the weird uncle that, you know, his feet stinks, and, you know, he's part of the family. So if you're going to have a family cookout, you got to invite him in, right? Well, you know, maybe he was talking to somebody in a cafe who might be loosely associated with somebody who might have said something bad about Obama's mama, and overhead comes a drone and shoots a missile at your family cookout and takes out 50 of your family members. You know, the crazy uncle, he gets away because, you know, he was hiding behind a tree taking a leak. But, you know, 50 members of your family get, you know, blown to bloody bits. You know, would you, if you were that family, consider that to be a terrorist attack? Where here in the United States, we look at it, well, no, that's war on terror. They're enemy combatants. So, you know, sometimes you got to step back and look at things objectively. And you got to think, yeah, okay, we're hurt. You know, we lost some innocent people up in Boston. But this government that represents itself as being your government is committing terrorist attacks on innocent people all over the world. And they're doing it in your name, representing you. They're doing it with your money. And that is what the world thinks of you. Okay? You wonder why somebody who lives 6,000 miles away might want to have it in for Americans, and it just, you know, might be so angry that, you know, any American he saw. You wonder? Put yourself in his shoes.